You're listening to Nereid Atlas, the podcast where international news gets unpacked a little more carefully. I'm Lucas. Here's the story. President Trump ordered a major U.S.-South Korea military drill cut back at the last minute. The White House is calling it a goodwill gesture to keep diplomacy with Kim Jong-un on track. North Korea has long objected to these exercises. This move nods to that. Seoul, though, is worried about the precedent. If core readiness drills become negotiable, deterrence starts to look like a bargaining chip. And that has ripple effects for coordination with Japan and the broader region. The stakes are simple and high. Troops' day-to-day preparedness, allies' trust in U.S. commitments, and the signals this sends to Pyongyang and Beijing. The tension we're following is whether pausing drills buys real diplomatic space or erodes the credibility those talks rely on. For this one, we pulled together 24 articles from 22 outlets across 16 countries, all published between August 16th and 18th. State-aligned TV in Asia, European broadsheets, North American newspapers, plus a few online outlets. The picture that emerges gets more complicated the closer you read. Elena's been digging into it. Elena, where should we start? Nereid Atlas, Synthetic Voices, Real Analysis. He says Kim has responded. North Korea hasn't publicly said a word, and hours before the drills start, he cuts them. What are we actually watching here?
A swap. One man's personal rapport traded against an alliance's muscle memory.
That's the tension, right? Is safety coming from his relationship? Or from the machinery that keeps South Korea and the U.S. locked together?
The exercises, Ulchi Freedom Shield, are how you test the wiring. Communications, logistics, commanders getting used to each other under stress. The diplomat said the immediate military effect of a late cut is limited. But the precedent, turning readiness into a bargaining chip, that's the cost.
But he argues the drills are hostile, expensive, and his good relationship makes things safer. Is there any evidence the North responded because of the cut?
Japan Times pointed out Pyongyang hasn't publicly acknowledged contact, so the claim is unilateral. It's a pattern. He asserts momentum, then asks institutions to adapt around that assertion.
And South Korea's just caught between? I saw confusion, a little panic.
Baffled is the word one wire copy used. The South Korean president went out to say the goal of the drills is preserving peace and security, framing them as defensive, not a prelude to attack. That's a polite rebuttal to the hostile label.
Because calling them hostile, that's not just optics. It rewrites the baseline.
Exactly. For years, Seoul has insisted these exercises prevent miscalculation. Now the U.S. president recasts them as provocation. That's a gift to Pyongyang's narrative without getting anything concrete in return.
And yet, Chinese state media loved the line about things being much safer thanks to personal ties. Of course they did.
It aligns with Beijing's interest. Weaken U.S.-ROK-Japan coordination by elevating bilateral understandings with Kim. If Washington steps away from drills, the trilateral looks shakier by default.
Meanwhile, even Fox noted the North is still testing missiles. So, unthreatening and respectful sounds detached from the facts on the ground.
The New York Times framed it as a lion strain. He says deterrence is hostile to Kim. The North grows more belligerent toward the South. Two trains going in opposite directions.
What do you do if you're Seoul? You can't contradict the American president outright, but you can't pretend this is fine.
You try to hold two lines. Reassure your public that the alliance is solid, and signal to Pyongyang the drills aren't about invasion. European coverage leaned into the indignity, maltreating an ally. But inside Korea, it's more delicate. The fear is isolation, not just insult.
And a day later, he says Kim has responded, with no details. It's like the conversation is happening on two planes, one private, personal, one institutional, procedural.
That's the core clash. Institutions want predictability. Personal diplomacy wants discretion and spectacle. When those collide at the last minute, hours before kickoff, the signal isn't "we're flexible," it's "we're transactional."
So the cut itself may be small, but the message is big.
And the audience isn't just Kim. It's Seoul, it's Tokyo, it's everyone watching whether US guarantees are commitments or options.
And once you've made readiness negotiable, what do you bargain with next time? There's another undertow here. I've seen headlines in London press saying South Korea's president is pushing harder for military independence, OPCON in wartime, even talking up nuclear-powered subs. Is that a reaction?
It's a signal. The Guardian tied that rhetoric to this moment. If the alliance feels contingent, you bring more control home. It's leverage, but also insurance.
Insurance against the ally?
Against volatility. Folha in Brazil took it further. If Washington keeps devaluing drills and deterrence, you risk nudging South Korea towards its own nuclear debate. That's not tomorrow morning, but every wobble moves the Overton window.
That's the part that feels irreversible. You can restore a canceled exercise. Restoring trust is slower.
Because planning cycles are confidence cycles. Units schedule, train, budget, rehearse. You cut at the 11th hour, you inject doubt into the calendar. And doubt compounds.
Trump says cost is the issue. Is that persuasive in the region?
Japan's public messaging emphasized critical cooperation. That's a polite way of saying the cost of not training is higher. In Asia, they hear expensive as optional. Deterrence doesn't survive as an optional line item.
If the diplomat says the immediate military impact is limited, are we overreacting to the signal?
The limited impact today is the point used to justify the cut. But signals are the strategy. Pyongyang excels at exploiting atmospherics, demanding pauses, calling them confidence-building, then pocketing them. With no public acknowledgement this time, it looks like a unilateral freeze for freeze.
Freeze for freeze without the other side freezing.
And France 24 noted the shape of it, edging back to US-North Korea direct contact while creating separation from Seoul by reducing joint drills. That wedge is strategic value for Kim in itself.
Who benefits most from this storyline? I understand him. He understands me.
Domestically, it flatters the image of the indispensable dealmaker. Cheaper, safer, personal mastery over bureaucracy. For Kim, it validates a channel where he can extract concessions for replies, or even for silence. For Beijing and Moscow media, it's proof the alliance is negotiable.
Everyone gets a headline. Seoul gets heartburn.
And Seoul responds with restraint. Ansa quoted the president. Objective is to preserve security and peace. It's dignified, and it keeps the door open to talks without surrendering the premise that drills are stabilizing.
It feels weirdly lopsided. The loudest narrative is personal triumph. The quietest labor is institutional upkeep.
The upkeep is what keeps miscalculation low. Think of the exercises as the alliance's muscle memory. Skip enough reps, and under stress, you don't move the way you think you will.
So where does this leave the peninsula tomorrow morning?
With a precedent on the table. If talks resume, they begin from a place where alliance readiness was already discounted. If talks don't resume, the discount still happened.
And the next time North Korea wants a gesture, it knows exactly which lever to ask for.
Or which lever to expect without asking.
The strange part is, if safety depends on one relationship, the alliance becomes the third wheel.
And third wheels learn to steer themselves. The timing of that lesson, that's what keeps me up.